All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Richardson, and I am a board member and the clerk of the Waltham Land Trust. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Waltham Green Possibilities City Council Candidate Forum. And before we begin tonight, I just want to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcasted on the Waltham Land Trust's YouTube channel. Tonight's forum is co-sponsored by a coalition of organizations, including the Waltham Land Trust, the Waltham Fields Community Farm, Mothers Out Front Waltham, Waltham Energy and Climate Action Now, or WECAN, and the Massachusetts Sierra Club. Some of the candidates who are participating in the forum may be involved with one or more of these sponsoring organizations. We want to be clear that a candidate's participation in the forum or his or her involvement with any sponsoring organization is not an endorsement. The sponsoring organizations, many of which are 501c3 nonprofits, are not endorsing candidates for Waltham City Council. This is the second in a series of 3 forums that our coalition is hosting. You can view the previously recorded contested ward candidate forum at youtube.com/user/Waltham Land Trust. The at-large candidates forum will be held on Friday, October 22nd at 7 p.m., also via Zoom. If you registered to view tonight's forum, you will automatically receive that link. All of the candidates were provided an equal opportunity to participate in the forum related to the office they're running for, and we took care to distribute information to all candidates as equally as possible. That said, tonight's event is going to be a bit shorter than we had anticipated. Councillor McLaughlin had let us know in advance that he had a conflict for this evening. We then heard from Councillor Dunn, Councillor Harris, and Councillor LaFosse this afternoon that they were no longer able to make it to tonight's event. So we've asked them all to provide responses in an alternate format, which will be distributed after tonight. We are pleased to be joined by Councillor Durkee, who is running for Ward 6, and Councillor Darcy running for Ward 3. Councillor Darcy's also asked me to let you know he's having some technical issues with his laptop camera, so while he's with us live, he's not going to be able to appear on video. In terms of format, to begin, each candidate will be given 30 seconds to introduce themselves, after which we'll move to a series of questions. Candidates will receive an equal opportunity to respond to each question. When a candidate's time has expired, they will receive a 10-second grace period to finish their thought, after which we'll move to the next question. At the end of the questions, the candidates will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. While the sponsoring organizations have strived to choose questions that cover a range of topics, we recognize that many of you may have follow-up questions after tonight's forum. We'll provide the candidates' contact information at the end and hope that you'll reach out to them directly. Thank you. So with that, I would like to move to introductions. As we said, each candidate's going to have 30 seconds to give a brief introduction to our audience, and I'd like to start with Councillor Durkee, please.
Thank you, Anna. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I know a lot of you, and I support your issues. I'm Sean Durkee, Ward 6 Councillor, first-term Councillor. I sit on the Finance Chair, Economic and Community Development Committee. I'm Chair of the Veteran Services Committee, and I also serve with Councillor Darcy on the committee to appoint CPC members. Thank you.
And if I can now move to you, Councillor Darcy, for your opening.
Thank you very much. My name is George Darcy, and I'm running for councillor for Ward 3. While I do not have an opponent this year, which is convenient for me, but bad for democracy. I have a degree in computer engineering from BU. I was formerly the chair of the Waltham Conservation Commission and was the co-founder of the Waltham Land Trust. Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to move to our first question. So one of the most important environmental topics is climate change and ensuring the next generation has a sustainable future. As a city councillor, you'll have an opportunity to help our city act to prevent or mitigate the negative impacts of climate change. What specifically do you hope to achieve during your time as the city councillor to address this issue? And I'd like to start with Councillor Darcy.
Thank you. Protecting our last remaining open spaces from development is an important step in combating climate change. I have been a strong supporter of protecting these last remaining open spaces in Waltham. I co-sponsored a CPA application with the rec board to restore the Wellington Farm at 735 Trapello. That application was approved. Clearing started in the fall of last year. The lawn was mowed again last month. Walking paths were graded and seeded, and 600 pounds of annual rye was broadcast just last week. That's one example. And then concerning the resolution I put in to restore the pond and daylighting the stream at the Fernald about 5 years ago. And I'm happy to state that the city just recently put out the RFP for the construction of the pond and stream with bids due in early November. And this will hopefully store up to 2 million gallons of stormwater, reduce the annual flooding on Linden Street, provide an enhanced natural setting at Fernald. So these are just two examples that I'm working on to increase the open space and the green space in the trees in North Waltham. Thank you.
And Councillor Durkee, if I can move to you with the same question.
Thank you. I'm having somewhat of a difficulty seeing the full question on my screen, so I'm going to look at my phone here. Climate change directly impacts Ward 6, but I'm also a councillor for the whole city and realize if one part of the city is flooded, I think we need to work together on this. We secured $100,000 grant funding for debris cleanup at behind the city yards from Chesterbrook, Lyman Pond. We're doing debris cleanup, but the people who live on Oakley Lane and Valley View, they get flooded. And after our last rainstorm, you saw that on social media, you saw Lexington Street got flooded in front of the car wash. You saw Summer Street got flooded in the dip in the road. Linden Street got flooded. So, and half of the south side of the city got flooded. So climate change is real. It impacts the whole city, directly impacts my ward. And I was just going to say that the city engineer has been tasked with identifying all of the waterways, how the waterways in Waltham are impacted. And I've spoken with the mayor. This is a citywide issue, and I don't think there's any one thing that solves it. And part of the issue is, you talk about obtaining land or leaving land for open space. The sins of the father, the sins of the past, where giant developments were built with no way to mitigate the water runoff. Well, now we're paying for it. So we really have to look to the future and see how we're going to deal with these items in the city. But specifically debris cleanup, there's an engineering review of the waterways and how they flow throughout the city. But that's starting now. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. And since Councillor Durkee's having some challenges with viewing the text of the questions, I will also post those in the chat as we go so that both candidates can read them. Moving on to question 2, transparency in city government helps keep the community informed and sets proper expectations in terms of how city operations proceed. For example, how grant money is used, how committees discuss issues and make decisions, and how ordinances get implemented. In your tenure as a city councillor, what will you do to help ensure transparency in Waltham's government? And I'd like to move to Councillor Darcy first with this question.
Thank you very much. This is dear to my heart. I have 3 items that are currently on the docket to improve transparency in the city council. They're in progress and I'll explain them. One is a resolution calling for additional video monitors to be placed in the council chamber as well as in the hallway. This will enable the visitors to our meetings to see the presentations from seated at the sides of the council chamber. And if it's full in the council chamber, it will enable visitors that are in the hallway to hear and to view those proceedings. Number two, I have a resolution calling on the city council currently on the docket to record all the council meetings for rebroadcast, download, and retrieval on the internet. Unfortunately, only 4 of our committees are recorded: the council, the committee of the whole, finance, and ordinances and rules. 11 are not. Some are standing committees and some are ad hoc committees. And need I say more, it's 2021. Once we get all these other committee meetings recorded, then we can go on to other improvements such as closed captioning, metered titles, etc. Number 3, increase the radius for abutter notifications for special permits and zone changes. That's a resolution I just submitted last week. Currently, Mass General Law dictates a mere 300 feet radius for abutter notification for public hearings. Large zone changes like the one that was proposed a couple of months ago can affect many neighborhoods in regions of Waltham. That's why I'm asking that the city provide a proportional system of notification larger than the current minimum 300 feet. In addition, and probably more importantly, or as important, I'm asking that renters be notified. Under the current law, only owners need to be notified. So if you have a large apartment complex, no one even knows about it that actually lives there. So those are 3.
Thank you, Councillor Darcy. Your time for that question has expired, so I do want to move to Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Anna. I support everything that Councillor Darcy said. I just ran into a situation where there's about 100 people in an apartment building, and the people applying for the special permit said, we sent an email to the owner, and I said, look, you have 100 people next door who are going to be affected by this. The owner may or may not have been notified. But in general, I support the initiative to tape all meetings. I sat in the same room with Councillor Darcy and heard that, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but our meetings, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but we were told some of our meetings weren't as important as others. And I think in this day, in the 21st century, I mean, we could glue a webcam to the corner of the council chamber if we have to, and have someone operate it remotely from home. This is not a big deal. What I can't speak to, and I think the Ward 3 councillor would agree, everything always comes down to funding, and the council does not control funding. And that theme comes up a lot in the future, because that's not what our role is. As you know, or maybe you don't know, we can cut from the budget, we can't add to it. I know this issue has come up before. I think the matter came up 5 or 6 years ago, long before I got on the council. So this isn't anything new. I'm in support of taping the meetings, and I would also add, if people are interested, they're more than welcome to come down to council chambers and read them in reference to the transparency concerns. It just seems like trying to change something that has always been done the same way. It takes effort. I can tell you, when a large group of people get together and they inform the mayor, they inform the councilors, and I would add, not to pick on the at-large councilors. I mean, you're asking me as a ward councilor, Councilor Darcy as a ward councilor. You have 6 ward councilors who represent the whole city. So I'm in support of transparency in the meetings, taping the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durkee. And we certainly do intend to ask these questions of the at-large councilors as well. We do have a 1-minute follow-up question. And I'll start with you, Councillor Durkee. As a follow-up to the previous question, how will you ensure that ordinances like the plastic bag ban move forward in a transparent manner?
Thank you. The plastic bag ordinance showed, before I got to the council, I mean, we just had it, I believe we just had our second reading, and part of the setup of government is, so something isn't fast tracked. That's why when you change an ordinance, it seems to take a long time. And I mean, in a way it has, but that's the purpose. So people have an opportunity to see what's going on, see it in the public record. I'm very happy that if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was the Girl Scouts, it may have been a Brownie troop that initiated this resolution, this ordinance. And I think it's like the purest form of government, where a group of people petition their government, their representatives heard them. It's in the process of being, approved. I'm not aware of anyone opposed to this. And if I'm not mistaken, after the third reading, it becomes an ordinance. So I support, I support the plastic ban, the plastic bag ban.
Thank you, Councillor Durkee. And same question, Councillor Darcy.
Yes, thank you. I believe we received the law opinion just about 2 weeks ago, and I think it's ready to be advertised for the public hearing. So I think I'm hopeful that this will be passed before the end of the year.
Thank you. All right, question 4. So environmental issues affect some Waltham residents more than others based on their social and economic circumstances. What are your plans for increasing equity and access to open space and reducing barriers to all residents being able to realize the benefits of the natural resources throughout Waltham, especially those whose voices don't normally get heard? And there's 2 minutes for this question, and I'll start with you, Councillor Darcy.
Great, thank you very much. So basically, in a nutshell, North Waltham is blessed with a lot of open space that accidentally occurred when the state purchased all these lands for the hospitals, but the southern part of Waltham is not so lucky. So we need to support pocket parks in the south side of Waltham. In the past, I've supported the former Ward 9 councillor in his attempt to create one on Crescent Street. So I think we need to step back and actually actively look at all homes and all lots that come up for sale on the south side, and use CPA funds to acquire these lots for pocket parks. And it's one way to increase the exposure to the natural landscape for those people that don't live near some of the bigger open spaces in North Waltham. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Darcy. And Councillor Durkee, same question.
Thank you. I think I wasn't sure how to read this question or fully comprehend it. I think, we're pretty lucky in Waltham to have Prospect Hill Park and hopefully with, Fernald property opening up. We're pretty lucky with what we have. The rail trail coming up. I mean, people already use that and it's not even developed. But I think having them to begin with and having that mindset is important. Meaning if if we didn't have these, there would be no way to offer access. So we have these and we need to develop them. I'm a strong proponent of the rail trail. I was at the first meeting 25 years ago. I think it's been too long. That cutting right through the city, right through the middle of the city would provide access to numerous and diverse groups of people. That's one way of doing it. But I would also say, we have refurbished all of our parks in the city. We have redone all the last 2 are being refurbished right now. It is a gem that our park system, credit to the mayor for focusing on this. I've been to numerous parks where people have approached me and said they came from other communities to use our city. So I think we've invested. I think it's a plus. We've used funds to acquire large parcels of land. I think we're doing good, but we have a lot of room for improvement. And I would support. I would say not just on the south side. I would also say closer to Main Street, not just my ward, but there are areas that could use parks, pocket parks, and I would be in support of that. I'd also add, just for access and diversity, Veteran Services currently has a resolution for handicap gardening spots that we're trying to fulfill that, and we're in the process of working on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durkee. So we'll move on to question number 5, and I'll start with you here, Councillor Durkee. And this is 2 minutes for this question. The city is in the process of purchasing the Waltham Field Station on Beaver Street. What is your vision for the future of this building and property?
Thank you for the question. It's going to remain open space, recreation, and agricultural for agricultural purposes. So specifically what happens there, my understanding is the process, there's an RFP that the mayor asked for input from councilors, including myself. And I believe everyone, I can't speak for the council, everyone was in agreement to keep it under the same auspices that Cornelia Warren wanted this to remain. I don't know how much I can speak of. I don't know how much more we can speak about specifics, because it still is in negotiations with the city unless something has changed. The deal hasn't been finalized. I was very proud to support the $3.14 million to finalize the purchase. That was one of the first votes I took when I got on the council. I'm hoping that we can be broad-minded in the use for the field station. I had advocated in the past for having a learning lab or educational purposes. I don't want that to conflict with what's already been put out in an RFP. If that is conjoined with the RFP, I'm all for it. I think as many people as possible should be able to use that. I even in the past I've talked about. I said, hey, can we get a windmill? Can we put a windmill or wind turbine on that property? And there were issues with that, but I'm very open-minded, and I'm proud of that purchase, that we're going to leave it open space, recreation, or agricultural. And I also support the Land Trust Western Greenway path along that. I think that's part of the property, and I want that to happen as well.
Thank you, Councillor Durkee. And if I can turn to you, Councillor Darcy, to share your vision with us as well.
Great, thank you. So as mentioned by the prior councillor, the City Council is in executive session concerning the acquisition of the Waltham Field Station on Beaver Street. That being said, my vision, as put in the original resolution that I submitted, is preserving the site in perpetuity as use for a community-based farm for our children and our grandchildren to enjoy in whatever form that means, whether it's leased, used by the school system for educational purposes, community gardens, scientific experiments, all wonderful things. It's as you all know, the soils at Beaver Street are some of the best in New England, and it's just a wonderful jewel and an asset to the city. I would have preferred to protect both parcels, north and south of Beaver, as the north parcel connects to the Fernald in terms of the Western Greenway extension. But I'm very happy, and I hope that we close soon on the parcel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Darcy. I'm going to move on to our last question, and this is another 2-minute question. So we'll start with you, Councillor Darcy. Waltham has recently faced some challenging questions about the use of city-owned land, for example, at Jericho Hill. Do you consider conservation of Waltham's natural resources to be a co-equal priority for our city alongside other important issues like education and public safety? What steps will you take as a city councillor to ensure that Waltham's existing open space is permanently protected?
Thank you. So I fully support the implementation of conservation restrictions on those properties we have purchased with CPA funds. In fact, it's required. And I also support reviewing Conrec zone changes, of which I've authored, I believe, 5, to ensure that the council order correctly describe the purpose of the zone change, i.e. for permanent protection of open spaces for natural purposes, and if need be, to rezone those with the proper council order. I also support investigating which parcels of parkland and municipal open space qualifies as Article 97 land, and which parcels have received state or federal funding. As you know, Waltham has the municipality of Waltham has over 100 parcels of open space of land throughout the city, totaling over 1,000 acres. I believe we're the largest landowner. So it's very, very important that we inventory what we have, and inventory in the sense of figuring out what existing protections do these parcels have. Do they have Conrec zoning? Do they have conservation restrictions? Do they have easements? What did the order state when we acquired the parcels? When and how were they rezoned? So I think that's one thing that I will focus on in my next term, is to do that inventory and to better inform the public what the status of our parcels are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Darcy, and Councillor Durkee, same question.
Thank you. I don't want people to have to choose between, either conservation or public safety, or education, or, fire services. I don't know that we've done conservation well. I can tell you what I've done on the council in 2 years. Do we have room for improvement? Yes, but I don't ever want someone to think, because I just reading the question saying, do you consider a co-equal, breathing oxygen is not, it's not up for debate. Clean water for me is not up for debate. Like, you shouldn't have to choose clean water or, clean, like good roads. So I do think it is as important, maybe the most important, but it is as important as anything else. I just don't want people to be pitted against one another. I've been a proponent of open space recreation. I mean, I've participated for decades in land trust activities. I mean, God, the bringing the owl to the Plimpton School, the New Year's Day walks up Prospect Hill, the road races that they have. I've been around. I mean, even at the site visit at Jericho Hill, I was there. We may not agree with everything, but I can tell you, I mean, I was there. Councillor Dunn was there. Councillor Harris. I know other people had obligations on that day, but I feel good about about supporting what needs to be supported, as far as whether we have to acquire open space or to improve it. I'm in support, and I think with this council, my biased view in the last 2 years is I feel like we're moving to get things done. I have a lot to learn. There's 5 new councillors. I think we have a lot to learn with open space and recreation, but I feel good about what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. So that does conclude our questions for this evening, and I'd like to move to a 1.5 minute closing statement for each of our candidates, starting first with you, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you. I really thank you for having this forum. When people get together and inform their elected representatives, it has power. I say this sincerely. We, as for all listening, we as council members and representatives, members of the community, we may not always agree, okay? But you have friends on the council, and the people related to the Green Forum and Green initiatives, you have friends on the council. For me, I'm closing up my first year. I'm unopposed. I have a lot to learn, and I would say, just on behalf of the first term councilors, I mean, the city has been shut down for 1.5 years. So when people say, you know, hey, what have you done? Like, we've been shut down for a year and a half. It's probably been the hardest time since the last pandemic 100 years ago to get anything done. So we're in a learning phase. I'm very proud of the fact that I initiated and got sponsorship on a mental health resolution. It's not directly related to the green forum type questions, but we did a lot of exploration and questions, and that resolution spurred, I can't take credit for it, but we're hiring a full-time social worker. I would like to say in part of the efforts of myself and the council. I think that's a good thing. I really appreciate you inviting me to this, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Darcy, your closing statement?
Thank you, Anna. I want to thank everyone who spent time to plan this forum. Waltham is becoming more green every year. We have protected hundreds of open spaces in the last 10 years by acquisition and by zone change to Conrec. And I know this because when I meet new residents that have moved into Waltham, they're coming from Belmont and Cambridge. And when I meet them, I ask why, and they say because of the beautiful open space in Waltham. So we're getting attention, not just in Waltham, but in the region. And finally, as an example, this Sunday, we're doing volunteer farm work at Wellington. Everyone's welcome, October 24th, 1 to 4. I hate to put this plug, but it's an example of how Waltham has changed. There's a new Waltham, and it's environmentally friendly and progressive. And please come by this Sunday and help us with the volunteer work at our third farm in Waltham. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Darcy. So I want to thank both of the candidates who were able to attend tonight, as well as all of those who are joining us in the audience. We did have 3 councillors who let us know this afternoon they weren't able to make it, but with early voting starting on October 23rd, rescheduling tonight was not an option. So we do appreciate you being here and sharing with our audience. As a reminder, the rescheduled forum for the at-large candidates is going to be on October 22nd at 7 p.m. And all of the recordings of the Green Possibilities forums will be posted to the Waltham Land Trust's YouTube channel, including the contested ward forum, which is already available. For those candidates that were not able to make it tonight, we will also reach out to them and do our best to secure answers to these questions in an alternative format. Finally, certain IRS regulations restrict the sponsoring organizations from asking questions in a particular fashion. So if you have specific questions for a candidate regarding their positions on a green issue in Waltham, we have posted their contact information here and encourage you to reach out to them directly. Lastly, for election information, including how to find your polling place or request a mail-in ballot, you can visit the city's website, city.waltham.ma.us/elections. So I want to thank you all for joining us, and don't forget to vote on November 2nd.